Hello. So the speech I chose was Franklin Roosevelt's address to Congress when the bombing of Pearl Harbor happened. I chose this speech because it wasn't just an instrumental part of history, but also in our lives as a military family. We were stationed at Pearl Harbor several years ago, and so I got to see firsthand a lot of the memorial sites and such. The USS Arizona, for instance, I saw the wreckage of the ship, and over 70 years later, there's still engine oil leaking. And then there's also the wall of all of the sailors and Marines that were lost during that day on that ship, and it just really puts a lot of things into perspective. As well as you can still see some bullet holes and some remnants in the older buildings on like Hickam Air Force Base and stuff like that. So it's crazy to think about what it was like to be an American that day. The main point of this speech was the president addressing Congress and the American people to let them know about the attack from Japanese military on the island of Hawaii, or Oahu, during World War II, even though at that point the U.S. was technically not really involved, but I think some people could argue that point. However, the attack still came as a pretty big surprise to the United States. In the speech, President Roosevelt was talking about how he had received a letter just an hour after the attack on Pearl Harbor as a reply from a message from the U.S., but it didn't state any threat of an attack, no hint or anything. And so Japan really did a good job at that point deceiving the United States into thinking that we could actually work out a diplomatic differences without going to such drastic lengths as far as attacks and bombs and that sort of thing. Some other islands in the Pacific were also attacked by Japan during that night and following day. The islands of Guam and Hong Kong, Malaya, the Philippines, and Wake Island and Midway Islands were some of those affected. It was at this point during the war that President Roosevelt officially declared the United States against Japan due to these attacks. Since we just listened to the audio, there's only really one nonverbal cue that you can go off of, and that's the tone of voice. The president's tone of voice really spoke volumes during this speech. What he was saying was very professional and diplomatic, but you could really tell the pure outrage in his voice about what happened. You can also really tell the amount of determination and hope that the president had for the United States and how we would not necessarily retaliate, but get justice more so than anything. He also provided guidance to the American people about what we were going to do to get that justice as best as he could on that given day. On the website where the audio was, there was a video of this speech. I only had access to the first couple minutes of it, but I did look at it just to kind of see some other nonverbal cues. The speech was from a while ago, so the video and audio weren't very good. There wasn't a whole lot I could tell. The video was pretty blurry and the lighting wasn't the greatest, so I couldn't really see the president's face or anything like that, but I did notice, obviously, he was reading his speech like most presidents do. But what I thought was interesting was the area that the video showed. A lot of people weren't actually facing the president as he spoke. I don't know, I think those were just members of Congress, but I still thought it was kind of interesting that not everybody was facing him while he was speaking. Some of the listening challenges I encountered when I was listening to this audio was, of course, static. This audio is over 75 years old, and so it's not really the greatest, but thankfully the presidents, are good at speaking, and he spoke very clearly, so it was fairly easy to hear or to listen past the static. Since it was the president speaking, there was no additional noise from other people, which was good. Everyone was nice and respectful during his speech. Also, my son was very cranky the other day when I was listening to this, and so I could hear him crying and being fussy from all throughout the house. So I kind of had to block that out for a few minutes so I could listen to this video or to this audio. Some distractions I encountered during this and just normally throughout my day whenever I'm trying to really do something. I got a few phone calls during the time I was trying to listen, so I had to pause it, get up, and go answer the phone, and a couple of them were junk, and one was actually my advisor wanting to check in on my progress with everything. Also, my son, of course, like I said in my discussion post, I kind of always have to keep an ear open for what he's doing so I can hear when something happens or when he needs me or anything like that. My dogs can also be pretty annoying. They're calm and laying down right now, but they can come up and just bug me because they want to go outside or they want attention or something like that. So those are the challenges that I face kind of just during doing everyday tasks that, you know, kind of distract me or take my attention away for a minute. Some tasks I can do while still listening accurately are just more mindless tasks, ones that you don't really have to think about much, like folding laundry or doing the dishes or kind of cleaning up things. I do a lot of those while I'm on the phone or watching a TV show or something, and I can still listen to what is being said and going on, but still getting something done at the same time. I've also tried, like, while I'm on the phone, responding to a text or trying to look something up, and I kind of know that my brain just goes blank, so that part doesn't really work. So that's where I've learned it just kind of have to be something you don't have to think about, and then that way your brain can be fully engaged into what you're supposed to be listening to.